Hey, this is Brian Elaine from CrowdScribed, and this is 6.5 Questions with Ally Vesterfelt, and we are going to pretend like this is not the third time that we are trying to do this due to technical difficulties. Ally is the editor, I believe, of Prodigal Magazine,
Yep.
and she's also the author of Packing Light, which just came out this week, here, September 2013. Congratulations, and thanks for being here.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Question number one. Before we talk about your book, let's talk about writing. What are your ideal writing conditions?
Well, I love to write in the morning. That's my favorite time of day to write. So my ideal conditions would be to get up really early. I'm such a morning person, by 5 or even a little bit earlier, and just sit at the kitchen table or sit on the couch and put my headphones in and listen to some good music and have a few hours of distraction-free writing time just all by myself. So I like to listen to something mellow, either instrumental music, classical music, or I listen to a lot of Sleeping at Last while I write too, because it's nice and mellow. So
Yeah. Have you ever tried to get writing done at night?
I have to often, just because there isn't another time. And I can do it. It just, in fact, last night, I was telling you earlier, Brian, that my husband and I are en route from Minneapolis, where we've been living for the last year, to Nashville, where we're moving. So last night we were on the road, and I was in the passenger seat of our car, which is packed to the brim with all of our stuff, and typing a blog post for today for myself in the front seat of our car. So it definitely was not ideal writing conditions for me, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. So.
All right, question number two. Being that this was your first traditionally published book, what surprised you the most about the process?
I think what surprised me the most was how much really hard writing work there was to do in the editing process. I expected, I knew the manuscript writing part of it would be really hard, but I expected when I finished the manuscript and sent it into the publisher that was kind of the big thing, and then now I could move on to the easier stuff. And when I started doing the developmental edits with the editor that they had hired for me, it was just a really different process than I expected it to be. It wasn't in a bad way at all. It was actually really more fun than I expected it to be.
Okay.
But there was a lot of back and forth with the editor, and it was a huge, the developmental edits were a huge, very heavy lifting. It was lots of extra writing and adding new things and changing the order of things. And I wasn't really expecting that, but the coolest part was at the end of the process, the product that came out of it was a much better product than I even expected myself to be able to come up with. So
Yeah,
it was kind of fun.
that's great. Question number three. You mentioned that heavy lifting, the heavy edits. That's definitely one part of the book writing process. There's also the minor kind of little tweaking at the end, and even just the first draft and staring at the blank page. Out of all those different parts of writing a book, which do you think gives you the most energy?
Definitely the manuscript writing, the first part of the process, when you come to the page and you are just getting your thoughts and ideas on paper. That was the part that was most energizing for me. It just felt like I felt such a sense of possibility, and this story had been brewing in me for so long. I had lived it out, and then I had been processing it for more than a year after that, and then I had been waiting when you pitch the proposal to publishers, I've been waiting for a publisher to pick it up. So for so long, it had been brewing in me, and I was so anxious to get it out on paper that by the time I actually sat down, I felt like I had so much energy toward it.
Question number four. Your husband, Daryl, is a writer. Who finishes their career having written more books, you or him?
He's not here, so I can say me. Probably me. He is a writer, but he's also a really smart business guy, and he's an entrepreneur at heart, such a risk taker, and loves to start things. And so he does like to write, but he doesn't always have the patience to sit down. And I'm more contemplative and a little slower and kind of sit back and think through things. And so when it comes to the writing process, I definitely enjoy the process more than he does. He would rather he likes to write, but he would rather be doing his business thing.
Question number five. Of the last 10 books that you've read, how many do you think were digital versus print?
I would say probably of the last 10 that I've read, maybe 2 were digital and the rest were print. I have a slight addiction to print books. I love buying print books. I would always buy print over digital every day of the week. I just like to have them and keep them on my shelf, and so I'd always pick if I got to pick, I would always pick print over digital.
Question number 6, you mentioned kind of the long process of getting published. Would you have any advice for fellow bloggers or just writers out there who haven't been published but one day would like to be?
I would just say don't give up. I know that lots of writers and authors have stories like this, but I was rejected by multiple publishers before I found a publisher who picked up my project. And those rejections were not because the publishers were bad. Mm-hmm. They were because my story wasn't ready yet. And so I took the criticism that I got from a few of the publishers who sent me rejection letters and really used that criticism to fuel me to make the project better and to mature it and to make it more prepared for what it is now. And I really believe if I had tried to write Packing Light with the first publisher I pitched it to, it wouldn't be the book that it is today because it just didn't have time to percolate and grow into to what it is. So
yeah,
just keep at it. That would be my advice.
Last question, question number 7. What's your favorite holiday?
I would say Halloween is my favorite holiday. I love the fall. It's my favorite season of the year. I love scarves and sweaters and boots and hot drinks and pumpkin spice, everything. So, and I think it's a great holiday because there isn't a lot of pressure. You don't have to cook a big meal and you're not buying a bunch of gifts and it's not, there isn't a huge production, but you get to just hang out with friends and go to corn mazes and carve pumpkins.
Do you still put a costume on Halloween?
No, but I love answering the door to trick-or-treaters and handing out candy and looking at all the costumes, so that's fun.
Well, you can find Ally online at AllisonVesterfelt.com, and to connect with readers and authors, find great books, and maybe even publish one of your own, you can visit CrowdScribed.com. Thanks so much for your time, Ally.
Thanks for having me.